pull request because it's actually one that I was interested in. Where did we find it? I should probably start my screen.
All right, I just fixed audio. Yeah, which one?
It was really simple actually. It's been a while for a while. It's use the shared GitHub funding YAML. And the
Yeah,
thing is that you still have a Patreon for this, so I wasn't sure what to do with this change.
yeah, great question. So I'm inclined to close this for now. Um, my because the Patreon does fund it. One thing I'm considering doing is closing the Patreon, or even just having 100% of it go to the foundation each month, and then submitting the expense reports to the foundation.
That
Probably
sounds
that
about right.
probably that one would be the most most transparent, and I think would be good. But for now, I'd be inclined to keep it on the Patreon. Does that sound reasonable?
That does sound reasonable. But the thing with using the shared GitHub funding YAML is
Yeah.
that it did remove it, but what you could do is go to nixos.github and just copy the entry that has the NixOS Foundation link, so it can
Okay.
also be there properly. So that's actually what I meant to do.
Oh, okay.
So I just thought that this PR sort of conflicted with that, so it probably should have been closed.
I see. Yeah. How about I go ahead and close that for now,
Sure.
and we'll get moved over to the open collective.
Yep. So that was just one of them that I was thinking about. When it comes to that, you didn't want to add any more trusted users, right? That was all the ones you could review, correct?
Oh, I totally missed a couple more. Yeah. So let's look at Tal is there.
You should probably switch to screen sharing for this, right?
Sure. Yeah. Good call.
Okay. I cannot merge them.
Good point. Although we could set it up where you could merge them, that would be fine with me.
Oh,
Um,
please. The pings, please.
I know that's the problem. Okay. All right.
Not that I don't care for the pings. I definitely respond to each one of them.
Yeah.
Just like,
So the pings actually are a big reason that I would like to make a Borg not need trusted. Is just so people can just use it and not ping.
exactly.
Okay. Yep. That looks just fine.
Yeah, I
All
think that was
right.
all of them.
Cool. Sounds good. There's some other pull requests we could take a look at in a few minutes. And if anybody out there who is a longtime member of the community wants to help merge of board pull requests, let me know, and I'll grant people access very happily.
Totally.
All right. Would you like to take a look at a different pull request? And I'll try and get the patches for the of Borg infrastructure pushed.
Sure. And also to the people that are watching, so if you have a pull request, you have anyone you want me to look at, I will totally look at it. Like I will look at anything. I will try to review it. So the current one I'm looking, let me screen share. Let me get that going. So the current one I have looking at, oh, these are the show notes I know. Was someone reached out on discourse about their first pull request, which is like so sweet because you do that, you're definitely going to attract my attention. Distracting. Um, so yeah, they had a couple of questions about that, and I didn't even actually read this before I started reviewing it, and I did actually answer all of the same questions. So I do actually have a pending review here that went through. And the thing is that libfprint, I happened to there's an update, but it happened to merge a PR that added a fork of libfprint to Nix packages, and it sort of embedded it into the same expression. And now that I think about that, I don't really think I should have merged that because having forks like that in Nix packages isn't really the best thing. It's not really the best situation in my opinion. Like, and it even adds some code, so it's like basically an override that happens in Nix packages that someone could just do in an overlay. Now that it is actually maintained with someone, I'm not going to like go out of my way to remove it. So I did mention that here because it is going to be maintained by them. So I just thought I'd just leave it that way. But I think it might actually be ready to be merged. Let me look over it one more time. So yeah, so see here, it just splits it off into that variant package. And this is just a simple update, which, well, I will note that I actually didn't look at the changelog. So one thing when you're reviewing an update PR is to try your very best to find if there's a changelog somewhere. Anywhere that may have one, you should probably find it and read it because you don't know what's actually going to happen or the intended side effects, all the changes, or if dependencies change and stuff like that. I can see they added Go object introspection here, which means there's maybe like a jur binding now, or there wasn't before. So it's always just good to check. And that's the buff print. So usually it's like a news file, and then, just like read the entire thing very thoroughly. So I will probably do that now. This is a beta release. Hmm. So we are in like NixOS unstable, so I'm not completely opposed to merging beta releases to Nix packages. Like I actually have a pull request to merge like an unstable version of font config so it can get tested before we release because that's a really difficult thing to get organized. And honestly, I actually probably merged a beta release to this before, so I'm probably not going to sweat it. Okay, and that's just old releases. Okay, I think it's good. I'm probably just going to build it. PMs are exposed. So typical process to build is that I just change directory to the port, and you've probably seen this before. I just run this command, and then I build it. And also, Grim, I think you noticed this. You noted this out to me last time I reviewed a PR, is that I probably don't pay attention to ofborg as much as I should. Sometimes I may forget to check if all the checks passed. Sometimes that's probably because there's no button that's like delay merge until checks have passed. If that was there, it would actually probably help me, but that's more of a GitHub thing than anything.
Yeah, I think there's actually a GitHub browser plugin that gives you a button like that.
I actually tried that, and I actually didn't like it. It changed too many things. It felt a bit buggy.
yeah, I agree. I don't like it either.
So it was just like I don't want to feel like, and also like I was going to do the stream, so it's like I don't want people to think like, "What's with your GitHub? It looks really different. What are you doing?"
Fair.
So I didn't want to do that.
So
Oh,
the other thing is we've talked about making them required, but it breaks direct pushes, which is a workflow that some of our more long-term members and long-term contributors still like to do.
so Adis Blados mentioned here that re-offborg it was in many ways better before integrating it as GitHub checks. It was way more obvious when offborg was comments. So do you have a response to that, Graham?
Um, well, so
It's kind of
GitHub,
go
yes,
ahead.
so GitHub really doesn't like it when bots post comments, and I think it's actually against the terms of service to some degree. So
Oh.
um, I did too. I liked the comments too, even if they did feel a little bit spammy from time to time. Um, but I mean, yeah, I know.
So if you notice here, the commit message does not actually match what's in contributing.markdown, which I do notice a lot of contributors. It's like the update PRs that like the messages will not be correct. And it's like they did say that they read the contributing markdown, so it doesn't say it's checked. But I kind of feel like it's a little bit difficult to understand. Like if you look at the submitting changes here, this looks a bit kind of complicated. Like it could really to any kind of interpretation. And my first thought was like maybe it's not so maybe like language friendly possibly. Like maybe for people that English is not their native language, this might be a bit hard to interpret. So I wanted to make a pull request for a while to like really make contributing markdown like look really cute. But there's only so many pull requests that I can possibly put in until
That's
I
true.
pass out. So what I usually do is I just like change the commit message in actually not like that. Pretty much. Like Graham has, turned himself into, a bot partially. He's taken part of his, existence into a bot. He's now off Borg. So he can assimilate every single PR. So I think for World of Peace, we're gonna need like a World of Peace bot eventually, just review everything automatically. So what do you think about that idea? So yeah, I do frequently just edit the commit messages for people and just point it out to them that they should do differently because it's not that difficult for me. Actually, the header is actually correct. Hmm. Maybe I've just been made an unfair evaluation. They can, they should, but then again, it is just editing a commit message, so I don't really sweat it. It seems they also put their they use the master branch, which I always feel kind of like a bit like weird. Like, should I force push to that? Oh, might want to stop screen sharing here for me to type in my PGP password.
One thing I could do is switch over and show the deploy of ofborg.
Sure.
All right, so I ended up pushing a change to the ofborg infrastructure repository. And so I mentioned before that it's really safe to do this dry activation. And indeed, so not that one. How about this one? So it did that build and deploy, but it was just the dry activation. So even though it was out of date, it didn't do anything. So that was fine. I didn't need to cancel it or stress. Um, on this new one, I did the exact same thing. I did the dry build. We can see we have a new Hetzner machine here. And so at this point, after I click deploy, um, it's very quick, usually. Hmm.
So I'm just currently waiting for those checks to pass on that PR.
Okay.
And it seems that they don't have like the allow maintainers to push to branch enabled. So I will mention if you're like thinking of contributing to NixOS, so that really does help maintainers to be able to just fix up your branch really quick and merge it, because this way I actually have to push directly to master, which is a
Nice.
bit
Yeah,
more work.
true. That's a good point. Yeah, so here we are. We've deployed ofborg to production. This tells me it took 47 seconds to do that deploy, and then now those users should have completely trusted access to ofborg at this point. So that's how I deploy ofborg, and it's pretty much automatic for me from here on. There you go.
Okay, great. So Savani has a question here. She said, so in my fork, create a branch off master, then PR from my fork, my branch to Nix packages, my branch. And I think that's correct. I think that's probably what's exactly in the contributing documentation. If I could actually pull it up, it tells you the exact git commands. Let me share that. From my fork, my branch, and expect as my branch is wrong. Yeah, it's right here in the making patches documentation. It explains precisely how to do it. And I'm pretty sure that's what everyone does in general. So let me just paste that into there. Okay, the check's done here. I think we're queued on Darwin. Okay. So we have one key to check, and it's the Darwin, but I'm pretty sure this is a Linux only package, so I just kind of ignore that sometimes because it'll get queued up. Let me check the platforms. Yeah, it's just the Linux package, so I'll just push that. Now it is a bit frightful that I haven't tested this package with a fingerprint device. So now I'm thinking about that. Perhaps I should wait for someone to do that, but the thing is that when I've actually reviewed this package several times is that it has not been tested by many people because I don't think a lot of the core contributing body has like a fingerprint reader or something. So it has gone untested. I'm not sure what to do about that. I think I might just merge it.
Does libfprint have a registered maintainer?
Yes.
Aberdar. Well, if that's just him and he hasn't replied yet, when did he when did Eliaka submit this pull request?
3 hours ago.
Oh,
I'm a little quick, so
yeah, I would give him a little
I'm
bit more
very
time.
quick. I kind of reviewed it before. I couldn't help myself, honestly. I kind of reviewed it before I even started this. I meant to actually wait, but I just couldn't help myself. So I probably should wait on that. I'm a bit eager sometimes, which might be frightful to some people thinking I'm just merging changes without testing them. I really do test things very, very, very thoroughly. It's just some things I just can't test at all because it requires some hardware that I don't have.
How about we review some PRs to the Arch64 builder?
Sure.
Cool. Oops.
Do you want to switch over for that?
Sure.
Okay.
So this one's largely the same. So we have, this is actually under Nix community, the Arch64 build box. This machine has like, I think it has 50 or 100 cores or something. They're kind of slow cores, but it's a lot of cores, so it makes up for it. And it's pretty easy to get access. You just have to, I definitely want to recognize who you are, but you have to understand and read the security problems with using this builder. In that a trusted but malicious actor could hack your system if you actually trusted anything that came out of this. Let's see, Daniel Fulmer. So I don't recognize their name, but Samuel DR suggested that he ask anyway. So I'm just going to take a look. See that they added, that's nice to see that they're using a YubiKey probably. All right, this looks fine to me. So I'll click merge.
I've interacted with them before.
Cool. How about JBomb?
Yep.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, I have a
Oops.
strange memory. I can just pretty much remember every single person I've interacted with. It's kind of a bit crazy, but not really.
Betaboon, I definitely recognize him or
Yeah.
them. Don't know their pronouns. Cool. All right, so that's all the pull requests for the Arch64 build box. So I'm a pretty big fan of BuildKite, so we'll jump over to the BuildKite build. We see that it's actually already building. This isn't ideal because it kind of breaks things, so we will cancel both of these and start a new build. I'm seeing scheduled builds have failed for some time, so maybe this one won't work either. Overall, the way this pipeline works, we'll jump to, hopefully we can find a one that worked. Uh-oh. So the first step it does is it instantiates the NixOS config into derivations. It then copies it over to a remote builder, which is Arch64. It does the build on the remote Arch64 builder and then uses some trickery to copy the netboot, a netboot.ipxi RAM disk in the kernel over to a netboot server. And then it just, hopefully I'm not showing an API key, probably not. It uses the packet.net API, packet.com API to issue a hardware reboot. And that's supposed to happen once a week. So I'm assuming it's going to fail, and that'll be something to look into. There you are. That's how that works.
Okay,
And if
someone
people,
did paste a PR into
great. Do you want
IRC, but I'm not sure I should review it. So this is actually a situation where maybe you shouldn't um handle a pull request off the bat all of a sudden because I'm seeing here it's been here for a bit of a while. It seems to have like had several reviews here already. It's this one,
how
and then
big
John
is the pull
Ringer.
request?
It says 9 commits, but I'm thinking perhaps there may be fix-up commits. No, I see 10 files changed. So quite a few packages, so probably should review it.
I'm thinking we ought to, with all this Python, we might want to leave this one up to Freddie.
Possibly. It seems John Ringer reviewed it, squashed. I do see there's a failure on AR64. But I have like I've probably like reviewed probably a good deal of like Python packages in this time.
Yeah, it's okay if you don't do it now, but in general, I would appreciate it if someone could also maybe later give this PR a bit of attention, because I know it was waiting for like several weeks, multiple times, and the author has always like quickly responded to reviews. So now it's again been waiting for two days without any comments. So maybe I thought it would be nice to um, get an answer again.
And have you tested this pull request?
Yeah, I've personally built it and tested that the application runs. I've not done any in-depth tests, but in
Good.
general, it works. Yes.
Well, then in that case, World of Peace, why don't, do you think it's okay to just keep going and do a review?
Uh, to be honest, I don't think I want to review a Python packages pull request.
Okay.
Only that's because I've probably reviewed so many of them, and I probably could find quite a few things just in a few moments. But they're not quite trivial, sort of learnable moments. They're kind of really trivial, like your description's not proper, or this is not a proper way to wrap, or something like that. That's not really useful information.
Hmm.
So it's kind of
Well,
sort of like trivial nitpicks.
maybe I'll message Freddie in the background.
Okay. So when it comes to that, I don't think we have any other pull requests prepared. It's probably going to be me searching for one. So I need to find a pull request.
So I can share my screen again about that build. Um, so this build seems like maybe it might end up succeeding. It's so the netboot process creates a root file system um, using SquashFS, which is part of the RAM disk, and then that gets mounted with a read-write Union FS layer on top. There's some additional trickiness that gets rid of the Union FS later on. But so this SquashFS contains everything that's needed for the system to boot. And then once this is complete, the reboot downloads the SquashFS and the kernel off this web server, and then boots off of it. So every single boot is completely pristine, except for just a few secret credentials, which are stored on a certain partition on the disk. I was hoping it would finish by now, so it would be interesting to look at, but it doesn't look like it will. World of Peace, let me know when you're ready to share something.
Yep, I have a PR that's probably super relevant to me.
Cool, go for it.
Okay. So it does slightly involve the Python situation, but it does meet like the sort of GTK sort of framework. So the issue here is that we've cut Pango at like sort of an older version, and actually I think at some point it was an insecure version on stable, because it breaks a super deprecated binding p by GTK, which is completely archived and maintained. may I mind you. And there's quite a few packages in Nix packages that use that, and I did actually because this package needs to actually be removed. I'm pretty sure Debian has already eliminated it or will be eliminating it this January. So I have been doing that. And so the biggest issue is that a lot of these applications are either like some of them they may continue to work, but there's nothing underlying underneath them that's going to allow them to continue to work because Pango, as it makes changes, it's just going to continue to break PyGTK. And it's Python 2, mind you, as well, so that's already has to go. So I created a pull request to remove a lot of those packages, and I've been working on that a bit, but it's kind of difficult because some of the packages have forks that are now ported to Python 3 and Go object interfections bindings, but some don't. So it's a bit difficult, tricky situation when people's packages are going to just get removed, and I don't want it to come off that way, like I'm just going to abandon someone's package because I think it's not maintained. It's because PyGTK as a library isn't maintained and in its state is going to become defunct very soon. It's because of its existence. So it seems this pull request is probably better to be merged besides from the commit message. I'll probably give it another look. So Jotnar said, my collaborator, it looks good to me except the commit messages. The Pango one should be that, and the PyGTK commit should be squashed, and the commit body should mention that it is for compact with Pango 144. I'll probably just look at the checks also. Timeouts, usual. So the thing that we decided to do is that we're just gonna to be sort of more of a graceful, less sort of like user intrusive um migrations. We're not gonna remove PyGTK just right away. We're gonna try to remove it probably in the next release, but allow it to continue to be in Nix packages and sort of work with some patches until we can completely remove it because it's sort of like a time situation if people can port the applications over, or there could be like an alternative application. Some things will have to be removed though, so it's a bit of a tricky situation. So yeah, I believe it looks good. I just need to change the messages the way Josh and I wanted them. I'm not sure I want to share that because it's kind of a bit boring too. Anything with Gadagram?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So as it sounds, that pull request is completely fine. It's just there's the other one that's going to remove a bunch of packages. Probably pull that one up also. Let me see.
So Addis Blattis on IRC has reviewed that Python pull request, and I think we'll be merging it.
Oh, okay, fabulous. So I first opened this pull request that was going to remove a lot of the PyGTK software as a draft because it was sort of like it's kind of quite difficult to look through maybe 40 packages and determine which ones are abandoned. So I wasn't completely sure, and I didn't really want to offend anyone that way. Though I did kind of drag a bit of attention. So it sort of links in with the precedent to Python 2 to Python 3 migration. So I would really like if because currently that is something that's a goal I think for 2003. I'm not sure if it's like a project anywhere, but it would be nice if we could have like a tracking issue to sort of organize that, like what we had with all the Qt changes, because maintainers are responsive in Nix packages, and if you just sort of ask them, they'll probably see if they can get to it, handle their package. Because a lot of times it's just an issue whether you need to notify something is happening. So as you can see, it removes quite a few packages, and I did a bunch of research to find out what is the status for some of them. And I'm trying to remove as little as possible. I don't want to remove things that without reason, because that's quite a strong severity. for a user, especially a package this all of a sudden is gone. So I would only go start from there as the highest severity of what can be removed, and then what things are broken and what things are maintained should be allowed to work until next release. So that's what I'm going to do with this migration. But as it stands, I've just sort of opened to get people's attention mostly.
So at what point do you decide that you're done getting people's attention and you just get rid of them?
That is a good question. So when it comes to here, I'm probably going to just remove what's in this pull request and then sort of pull all of my research out of it so we can get people's attention because I'm sort of a bit frustrated because there's a lot of packages that just don't have a maintainer whatsoever. It's like no one is accountable for this package, so if I remove it, who's going to reject? Unless someone picks up the maintenance for it. So it's going to be a lot of like finding people to maintain this thing if they use it, which is a bit difficult to organize. So I think we really do need a sort of an issue for that to keep track of that.
I wonder if it would work to mark them all as broken.
That is an option. I think I'm not sure what Debian has done for this sort of situation. I think it might be similar to what it's like to mark something as broken. So you need a maintainer seeker role. Yes, we do certainly need some sort of needs a maintainer package because I know if these packages were in a different distro, they would have been marked as dead and gone.
Right.
A lot of them.
One thing I learned last week is there are some companies who have very strict rules about talking about what they use publicly. And actually, some packages to them that were really important to them were removed from Nix packages because they didn't have a maintainer. And they wish they had had the opportunity to go and take up maintainership. But they didn't know that was happening until packages had actually been deleted from Nix packages. So I'm thinking a little bit about how could we get people like them to speak up in times like this.
That is actually a tricky situation. You did say they couldn't actually tell what they were using. Was that right?
Well, they're not. They're definitely not open by default,
Okay.
right? But maybe if they had known that they were going to be deleted, maybe they would find a way to say, "Yep, we'll take care of these." Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And it does tie in with the discussion I recently had on Discourse about sort of defined guidelines for package inclusion and removal because that would be a part of the removal process, if I'm not certain, is that it would be a process to find someone to maintain this package until the deprecation path is just to completely remove it. So if we had some sort of a process for that, they could attach themselves to one of those steps so they could be a part of it. Because currently it's just sort of like up to the decision of a certain committer. Okay, this is going to be gone, and that's not really that's not a very open sort of attitude. I think people might get turned off by that. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
I agree. Finding a more community-oriented and transparent way would be good.
Exactly, because I didn't really feel so great about removing things or rejecting packages currently. I just have a really hard time with it because it's like I don't my sort of measure for what should be included is going to be different than what someone else has. So we don't really have overarching guidelines that we all handle aside from something being completely abandoned. So it's always a tricky situation. So I just want to talk about that. So Simon later said maybe we need a process that includes a recurring announcement. I thought of something similar because I think there's like a RFC for like I think it's like for moving maintainers to like sort of an Emirates team. And there was a discussion of notifications about that and sort of keeping up with I also thought about maybe in a further change we could keep up with maintainers that are missing or not present or not responsive to requests to update their package. So having any announcement really would be a good thing besides it just being gone in the next release.
Right. Something I found really surprising was this, the people I were talking to, while they wouldn't be able to communicate publicly about what they use generally, they would be happy to submit PopCon data, popularity contest data, um, to like privately. So maybe submitting derivation names associated with their email address. Like that is something that they volunteered to us.
That's actually an excellent idea, actually. Because I can't tell who's using what,
Right.
and generally for anything. So it's just up to my sort of personal discretion of what I know, and that's never going to be correct.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. And so what was interesting to me is I've always considered PopCon to be mostly for maintainers, but in this case, it seemed clear that they saw value in it as users, and I had never looked at it that way before.
Oh, that's true. That is so true, actually. That is another way it actually could be useful.
Yeah,
And did PHP did that PBB had a mention here is it'd be great to give a throw warning to to the users using the package because there have been a big motivation to pick up maintainership. Um, when it comes to that, when I removed the packages in this pull request, I actually added a throw in aliases that it's been removed instead of just suddenly being gone. So that's a little bit better. I do wish that was sort of a documented process because I have been sort of instructing people to do this regularly. So another documentation idea.
that's a cool idea. So it turns out we're at 45 minutes.
Yep.
How did the time pass so quick? um, Personally, these calls make me really anxious, and then I find 45 minutes have passed, and then it's done.
Oh my gosh, same. Exactly the same.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Do you have anything else you want to cover really fast, or shall we
Well, it
close up?
seems we started some great discussions in several serial directions. I don't think so.
All
I
right.
think if anyone has to speak on. Oh, Red wanted to say if you could rehash their question.
Let's do that on chat.
Okay,
All right, cool.
said sold. Okay,
Oh wow, that is really low latency. I think we fixed the latency problem. Cool, great.
okay.
Just a couple of things. We're always interested in feedback on what you all think about the format and how all of this works. There's since this has started, Zimbatim has begun a weekly Nix Friday event. You can learn about that at zimbatm.com/Nix Friday. I think that's really cool. You get one-on-one teaching from him. At the same time, Petty has started doing Hackage and Haskell update streams every Friday. Friday has become a big day for Nix in the video.
We're trendsetters, really.
Yeah, it's super cool. But so yeah, if you have feedback on what you'd like this meeting to be and what you would like to get out of this call, we'd love to hear it. And if you'd like to come talk about some cool project you're doing, that would be incredible as well.
Yep, always open for that.
Yeah. And we will be meeting again in 2 Fridays from now.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all, everybody.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye.